my people, how you doing? I hope you're having a damn good day. Welcome back to the channel, and today we will be discussing the new and improved Jurgen Klopp 4-3-3 system. Now, I have made these tactics in the past, but that was with last season's team more or less. This season's team, this set of tactics is with the new players like McAllister, Szoboszlai, Endo, of course that new midfield trio, and of course, like, who else have they signed? I think it's only those three players, haven't... Yep, okay, yeah, okay, cool. Yes, so that is the team right there. So yes, I have made these tactics in the past, but there are some differences. There's some slight variations to positions, instructions, and so on. So if you would like, if you are still using the old team with Fabinho and Henderson and so on, the old midfield, of course, feel free. I will link that video at the end of this one. You can make the call if you want to click on that, have a look at it, and use those instructions. If you like those instructions more, feel free, use them. But these are the instructions, and this is the set of tactics I've gone with for this modern looking team. And of course, I have also created and made basically the same system, but one that fits in Darwin Nunez a lot better into it, if that makes sense. So I will also be doing those set of instructions as well in this video. So if you can, hit the like button, please. You know, the road to 2,000 subscribers is on. We are growing at a phenomenal rate. It's fantastic. Honestly, you guys have been absolutely fantastic. So just give yourselves a bit of a round of applause. That would be absolutely great as well. Subscribe if you are new, by the way. So we are going to start off with this team right here. We've got Diaz, we've got Gakpo, we've got Mohamed Salah, who could be leaving. I don't know if he's going to leave. I hope he doesn't. You know, for the Premier League's sake, for Liverpool's sake. I want a good Liverpool in the Premier League. I'm a United fan, but I want a good Liverpool in the Premier League. From the bottom of my heart, I hope he does stay. We've got Szoboszlai, we've got Endo, Wataru Endo, the new DM of the team, who is still set as a central midfielder in FIFA 23. Anyway, we've got McAllister, we've got Van Dijk, we've got Robertson, we've got Konate, and of course we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold. And then we've got Alisson, the best goalkeeper in the world. Potentially, borderline, this might be slightly outrageous, borderline best Premier League goalkeeper of all time. I've said it. I rate this man so much, man. God damn. Yeah, we've got Jota, we've got Nunez, we've got Harvey Elliott, we've got Thiago, who I don't even know if this man's ever going to play ever again. Yeah, we've got Kelleher, we've got Gomez, and then we've got Matip, and then we've got Tsimikas, Bajcetic, Adrian. He's still playing for Liverpool, lol. And then we've got, and he said Phil Jones. We've got Curtis Jones on the bench, of course, and then a few others I don't care to talk about. Apparently, actually, I'll talk about this guy. Apparently, Ben Doak is a fantastic young player. And Liverpool fans really love him to bits. So, yeah, he's cool at least. But yes, as you can see here, it's just a basic 4-3-3 with a false 9, as you can see there. We've got one goalkeeper, two centre-backs, two full-backs, not wing-backs this time. It's full-backs. I did note that with the previous video, the original 4-3-3 tactics that I did make, I made both Trent and Robbo, full-backs. Or wing-backs, sorry, not full-backs. So there's a slight differentiation between the two. Of course, there's one DM, two central midfielders, one centre-forward, no striker, and then, of course, two wingers. Liverpool's tactical approach in a 4-3-3 formation, masterminded by Jurgen Klopp, is renowned for its high-intensity pressing and dynamic attacking prowess. The defence. Jurgen Klopp's defensive philosophy is encapsulated in the press after possession loss setting, a key element in his renowned gegenpressing system. This approach involves the entire team relentlessly pressing the opponents immediately upon losing possession, disrupting their rhythm and regaining the ball high up the pitch. A width setting of 60 allows Liverpool to clog passing lanes and effectively cut off the opposition's options, employing a man-to-man marking system to create pressure on the ball carrier. Setting the depth to 80 underscores Klopp's preference to play a high line and a high-intensity playing style, often referred to as rock and roll football. This team's defensive setup is built around an aggressive, fast-paced approach that applies pressure close to the opponent's goal and emphasizes quick transitions from defense to offense. The offense. For build-up play, the balance setting ensures Liverpool can maintain control and adapt their approach based on the situation. This allows for a flexible and versatile offensive strategy. For chance creation, setting it to balanced reflects Klopp's dynamic offensive approach, where Liverpool can react to opportunities swiftly and exploit defensive vulnerabilities effectively. A width setting of 70 widens the field and creates space for the fullbacks. In this case, it's Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson. These players play a pivotal role in stretching the opposition's defense with their exceptional crossing abilities in the wide areas. Setting players in the box to 7 showcases Liverpool's intent to commit multiple players to the attacking areas during crosses. This maximizes their chances of converting opportunities from those wide areas. Corners and free kicks are both set to 4, maintaining a balanced approach to set-piece situations while ensuring defensive stability. In summary, Liverpool's 4-3-3 tactics under Klopp epitomizes high-intensity pressing, dynamic attacking play, and commitment to quick transitions. The tactical framework reflects Klopp's philosophy of aggressive defending, fluid attacking movements, and utilizing the strengths of individual players to create a cohesive and potent team dynamic. So we'll start off with the instructions. The best goalkeeper in Premier League history, Alisson. I've got him set to come for crosses and be a sweeper keeper. It's pretty much the same explanation as what it was in the first video, where, of course, he is a very, very good sweeper keeper. Ball at the feet, he is amazing. He is up there with some of the best in the world. But more importantly, his ability to save the defense in certain moments, come for those big booming crosses that get fired into the box, whether it's from corners or set pieces or just crosses down the left or the right flank. He is very good at just claiming those aerial balls, making sure that the defense has got as less pressure on it as possible, and just the calm collectiveness and his effectiveness on the ball is just what gets Liverpool by at times, honestly. Like a few seasons ago when they were like out of the top 4 race, he got them back in it. He got them that Champions League football. Of course, he did score a goal to get them into the Champions League. And even last season, their strong drive to try and get back into the Champions League spots, essentially. It was mainly down to Alisson the whole of last season, just making save after save after save, keeping them in games where they should have more or less been dead and buried. And even against Newcastle on the weekend, he was fantastic in his ability just to make pivotal saves and create great moments just for Liverpool to hang on in the game. And eventually they did. They came back, they scored 2 late goals through Darwin Núñez. But I'll tell you what, if I think it may have been Almiron, if he had scored that goal, making it 2-0 down to 10 men Liverpool, I think Liverpool don't win that game. So you know what, Alisson, fantastic goalkeeper. I'm waffling though. As for Konate and Van Dijk, they are set to their base set of instructions. Now we'll start off with the left-hand side. Andy Robertson, he's set to join the attack and overlap. Slightly different to what Trent does, but basically you want him bombing on down that left-hand side, holding the width in that left-hand area, allowing for Diaz to cut inside a bit more, be a bit more of an inside striker at times. But more importantly, Andy Robertson, he's going to be whipping in crosses from that left flank very effectively and very aggressively, of course. And then we've got Trent's slightly differing role. He is set to join the attack and, of course, have a bit of a mixed attack, so he's not going to hold the width down that right-hand side. And there have been times where I've seen Trent, drift into that number 8 little half space area and he whips in those crosses. So I wanted to try and replicate and recreate that in FIFA, and this more or less does the job quite effectively. Of course, both fullbacks are set to stick to position. And now we've got the midfield trio, who all have got different instructions, of course. So we'll start off with Endo, very different role to what Fabinho had essentially. I think as time goes by, I've only really seen him for a game and a half. I mean, the half versus Bournemouth, and then basically 60 or 70 minutes against Newcastle. So maybe his role changes slightly, but what I did see was he was the furthest back midfielder. He was not instructed to get forward at all, whereas Fabinho had a bit more freedom to drive on a bit further up the field. So basically he was the lowest point in the midfield. Like I don't know how else to describe it, but basically to try and replicate that, I went with a bit of a balanced defense. So you don't want him just cutting up passing lanes. You want him to sometimes stick to the opposition man, and also have the ability to potentially position himself in good areas to intercept and break up play. But basically, he needs to drop between the defenders. Like I say, in order to replicate him being the furthest point back all the time, you want him to have that ability to almost more or less be in line with Van Dijk and Konate at times, shielding them in certain moments as well. So it does replicate that quite well in FIFA. As for the interceptions, it's set to normal. And then, of course, he's set to cover the centre and then stick to position. So he does sometimes, just advance a little bit, and that's quite nice. But more times than not, he will look to try and hold that central area very well between the likes of Van Dijk and Konate, and not look to be too aggressive with his runs going forward. Then we've got McAllister. He is said to have a balanced attack, stay on the edge of the box, of course. Normal interceptions, stick to position and then cover the wing. Very base set of instructions for him. Of course, you do want him in and around that the box area of the opposition. You do want him to try and recycle possession, circulate it back into the offensive play, circulate it out to your fullbacks, of course, in certain moments for them to whip in balls, especially if you have the likes of Darwin Núñez on the team and so on. But we will get to those instructions fairly soon. So yes, that is the McAllister set of instructions. Then we've got Dominic Szoboszlai. I've set him to get forward, so he will be your most adventurous attacking midfielder out of the three, of course. Basically, though, he is said to have a bit of a balanced crossing run, so he will look to try and get in the box in certain moments. He will be that added extra midfield or attacker in the box for the crosses being whipped in by either Trent or Robbo. And then, of course, normal interception to set on. Cover the wing, so he will look to drift wide in certain moments, and of course he is set to free roam, so he will look to operate in those little pockets of space. Now I know he can play as a right winger, so if you would like, and I don't mind this because it's a bit of a catch-22, because obviously ideally you would want both of these to be set on. You would like him to have a free roll and have a free roll in that wider area. So ideally you want him to operate in that right wide area where he's really good at doing. Or operating, I should say. But essentially, I've gone for the free roll roam because it works out a bit better for the system as a whole. So either way, if you go with the drift wide, I'm not mad. It would make a lot of sense, but I've gone with the free roll roam. The free roam roll. That's a tongue twister, honestly. But point being, that's the instructions I've gone for Dominic Szoboszlai. And then finally, well, no, not finally. But we're moving on into the upper tier, the attacking play. We've got Mohamed Salah. He's said to have a basic defensive support, so he won't always look to come back on defense and help Trent. He will look to sometimes, just hang up slightly higher up the field, and that does work in certain moments. I mean, we've seen him score countless counter-attacking goals with just him hanging, just on the shoulder of the furthest back opposition player and exploiting them for their pace because he is rapid. Anyway, he is going to hold the width on this right-hand side. We have seen last season started changing a bit where it wasn't Trent holding the width anymore. It was Mohamed Salah who was holding that width. And then what that does is it creates 1v1 situations with the opposition fullback or the defender, of course. And then you are allowed to attack him, dribble at him, and then try and beat him. Go left or right, cross the ball into the box, or potentially get off a shot, of course. And then he is said to get in behind. You want him using that explosive pace that he does have to try and exploit the defense, stretch that back line of the opposition as much as possible by getting balls fired into him in behind. Like I did say, it is a bit of a dynamic approach that Klopp does use. So if you want, have a diagonal ball fired in from Van Dijk or potentially a Trent in certain moments, depending on where he is in the field. And you want those diagonal balls fired into your wingers. In this case, it's Diaz and Salah, or it could be a Cody Gakpo if you play him on the wing, or a Jota, of course. So yes, you do want your wingers in certain situations to try and stretch that back line as much as possible. And then he is set to get into the box for those crosses that are inevitably going to be fired in by your fullbacks. And then we've got Diaz, slightly differing role. He's set to have a bit of a balanced basic support. So as well, he won't always look to try and get back, help the team out as much. But this time he's set to have a balanced width as well. So he's not going to look to cut inside or stay wide. He will look to alternate between the likes of staying wide and of course cutting inside, depending on how Robertson does get forward. So like I say, Robertson is the width hold on the left hand side, whereas Salah is the width hold on the right hand side, allowing for a bit more of a dynamic approach, if you ask me. But more importantly, he has got the same set of instructions for Salah in terms of getting him behind, stretching that opposition back line, and just using his sheer pace and power to try and exploit that back line in certain moments. Of course, as Salah's set of instructions as well, he is set to get into the box, making those runs into the back post areas. Now, we've got Cody Gakpo. He is said to have a balanced width, so he will look to sometimes drift wide, sometimes stay central. He's not going to be the focal point, the offensive juggernaut that Darwin Núñez will be, but he is going to have a slightly differing role to him. He is also said to get in behind, so also looking to try and press that back line as high as possible, try and get in behind them, exploit them with those long balls over the top, or through balls over the top potentially. But more importantly, he is going to look to try and have and replicate that Roberto Firmino role where he's going to try and be aggressive with his pressing abilities. Of course, when you lose the ball, you will look to try and implement the gegenpress, win it as high up the field as possible. And that starts off with the likes of Cody Gakpo in this role, of course. And then he is set to come back on defense. So he will look to drift slightly further down the field, coming back a bit more and linking up quite well with the midfield. And then what that does in turn is it does draw out the opposition backline. If it's a centre-back that's marking him, he will be drawn out a little bit, creating some nice space for those diagonal runs that either Salah or Diaz will look to make in behind. So yes, as you can see here, I've gone and I've changed it a little bit. I mean, we've made Núñez, we've brought him into the team and we've made him a striker in this situation, but otherwise, everything else stays the same. As you can see here, we've got a goalkeeper, 2 centre-backs, 2 full-backs, 1 DM, 2 central midfielders, 1 striker this time, and of course 2 wingers. Now things do change ever so slightly in the tactics. Of course, you're still going to look to try and implement the gegenpress. The width is still 60, the depth is still 80. That does vary depending on your opponents. But the build-up play and the offense, this is where things change. So it's still set to a balanced build-up play. But now, forward runs, you want to look to try and supply the likes of a Nunez, a Salah, a Jota, or a Diaz, or whoever's your forward line. You want to try and supply them with balls in behind or balls to feet, and then them driving at the opposition's defense. So that's the slight alteration between the 2 sets of instructions. But the width also set to 70, plays in the box still set to 7, and corners and free kicks, as per always, is still set to 4. And then, in terms of the instructions, Alisson is still set to the same sort of instructions. You've got Konate and Van Dijk, very much the same. You've got Trent and Robbo, also very much the same. And then, of course, your midfield also looks to stay the same. The only alteration to this set of instructions is the Darwin Nunez and that front 3 set of instructions, because this is more or less playing into the strengths of what Nunez can offer the team. And of course, I do see Liverpool shifting to these tactics a lot more now, especially if he does gain a bit more confidence after the Newcastle winners that he did score. I think Klopp will look to have a bit more trust with him and see that his confidence is there now, his ability is back. So yes, but we'll start off on the right hand side. Salah, he's set to stay forward this time, stay wide. Of course, he will still look to hold the width in the team on that right hand side, but again, he'll look to get behind, stretch that off the opposition's defensive line, creating space for the likes of Nunez, of course, and then get into the box with the cross. And then we've got Diaz, who's set to come back on defense this time, but otherwise the same set of instructions. Now I've gone with him coming back on defense because, of course, you need to balance out your team a bit. So more or less, when out of possession of the ball, and going for the goalkeeper restarts, of course, Salah and Nunez will be your highest 2 players, whereas Diaz will be slightly lower than them, more or less being involved a bit more in the build-up play when building up to the final third of the pitch. And then finally for Nunez, that's why these instructions have been made, centered around him, around the main man from Paraguay, Uruguay, that's the one. Anyway, he is set to have a bit of a balanced width, so he will look to sometimes, run the channels, chase down those loose balls that get fired into those wider channels. More importantly, though, his pace and his power is the most important thing, and he will look to try and stretch the back line, make runs in behind the back line. We saw 2 great runs in behind the Newcastle back line on the weekend, and he exploited them very, very much so. So, you know what? That's what we've gone with for this. Of course, you can also go with a target man approach, but I think, especially for Nunez in this moment in time, having him set to, charge in behind the opposition's defense works out a bit better and gets him into better positions for him to score goals. Normal interceptions is set to be on, and then of course stay forward. So him and Salah, like I said earlier, they'll be the furthest forward 2, and they will look to try and link up as much as possible for the offensive line. Now I do know that with the previous 4-3-3 instructions, Nunez is playing as a left wing. I would probably say that he can still play there, and we might see Klopp play him there a few times this season, depending on how he wants the team to act and react to the opposition. Of course, it is a very reactive system, which I kind of like, to be honest. I like the pragmatic approach to adapting to your opposition and then exploiting their weaknesses instead of just playing your way all the time. So I think we still might see the likes of Darwin Nunez playing as a left winger in certain moments, and having the likes of Cody Gakpo or Jota playing in that central role slightly deeper, allowing for more space for the likes of Salah and Nunez to operate in as those wider attacking players. So yes, if you haven't seen those instructions, click on them please, that would be great. So yes, people, that is my set of Liverpool tactics, the 4-3-3 2.0 tactics in FIFA 23. If you have enjoyed this video, hit the like button, please. Subscribe if you are new, most importantly, please. That would be absolutely fantastic. The road to 2,000 subscribers is on, and we're growing at a fantastic rate, like I said earlier. If you can, hit one of those videos over there. They might tickle your fancy. There is the 4-3-3 original set of tactics for FIFA 23. If you'd like to have a look at that, click that. Let me know if you enjoy that as well in the comment section. But most importantly, my dudes, I hope you have a damn great day. I'm out.